Hey guys, today we're going to do a little bit of art class. So we're going to look at how to sketch planes in 3 dimensions. So first of all, let's just go through what something would look like if we've got the equation x equals 4. If we're drawing this just in 1 dimension, it's just going to be a point. Okay? Let me use a different, how do I do this? Yeah, let's try that. Okay, there we go. So there is x equals 4 in 1 dimension. If, however, I'm drawing the same equation, but I'm in 2 dimensions, it's going to create a line here. Okay, so it's going to be just like that. Okay, and finally, if I'm doing it in 3 dimensions, it's actually going to give me a plane. So I would have that r is 4 there, and we're just eyeballing it here, that's okay. And it's going to look kind of like this. And of course it would go off forever in all 3, in the x and the z, but that's difficult to draw and show that. So we're going to look at the equation in or the Cartesian equation here, ax plus by plus cz equals d, or plus d equals 0, sorry. Okay, and so a couple things to note. First of all, sketching planes. I'm switching back to this. Planes in R3 sucks if you aren't an artist. There we go. So, and I am kind of joking there, but not really. So it is very difficult sometimes to make it clear what you are drawing when you're drawing a plane in R3, because of course we're using 2 dimensions to illustrate a 3-dimensional concept. And so there is, fortunately for us, a way to kind of do it. It's just, you know, it can be finicky and tricky. And so don't worry too much about your artistic integrity for these ones. Just do your best and make sure you show your work so that I can see that you have got the concepts. Okay, and so I'm not gonna bring these down to Mr. Lemasurier and have him look at them. I'm just gonna kind of ballpark it. So anyway, so a sketch of a plane in R3. A sketch. I'm not sure if I'm spelling sketch right. I feel like I'm not. No, it is. It just looks like a weird word. Okay, a sketch of a plane in R3. A plane in R3 can be created using a combination of points and lines. Okay, so there are 3 cases. Each one has 2 versions of the case, so there's actually 6 cases, but we're going to consider it 3 cases. Okay. The first one we're going to look at is if 2 of A, B, and C equals 0 and D equals 0. Now, if this is the case, in actual fact, the third one equals 1 kind of. So that basically, so the form here is x equals 0, or y equals 0, or z equals 0. Okay, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so these are the 3 possibilities, and those are the only 3 possibilities. And so, because of course, if like, for instance, if we were looking at the x one, if a equaled 7, well, you just divide everything by 7, and now you've got x equals 0. So this one is going to give us, it's just going to be the YZ plane. This one's just going to be the XZ plane. And this one is going to be the XY plane. Okay? So if I go to draw this, and again, we're not artists here. Well, maybe you are, but I'm certainly not, and that's okay. Okay, remember that one's Z, this one's Y, this one's X. Okay? And so, you know, if we're going to do, we'll do X equals 0. Okay? So that's just going to have the origin, and then we just pick a point on here and a point on here, and we just kind of make it like that. Okay? And that's as good as we're going to do. I mean, you can do a little bit better because you'll be able to use a ruler, which I can't do on my tablet, but that's okay. As long as you get the idea there, it's, yeah. Some of them are easier to draw than others. That one's kind of in the middle. But so anyway, so the next one, A, B, or 2 of A, B, or C equals 0 again. This time D doesn't equal 0, so it's going to have the form, X equals, and it's going to be a constant. So I'm just going to write 3. It would actually be D over A, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, I mean, you could, yeah, I guess it'd be negative D over A, but it doesn't matter. It's just going to be a number, okay? Z equals 3, whatever. Okay, and it's not a 3 necessarily, it could be any number, okay? These ones are parallel to the coordinate planes. So parallel to the coordinate planes. Okay, so we'll do X equals 3. Okay, and again, start with that, that, and that. Always label your X, Y, and Z. Okay, and I'm not going to do a super detailed one here, but so we would go out 3 on the X, and we get that point. Okay, it's going to run parallel to the Y, it's going to run parallel to the Z, and so we're left with this. Okay. Again, it's not a perfect drawing, but you get the idea. And we do draw it as like a box just so it's kind of clear what it is, but of course it's not actually a box. It would go on forever in this direction, and in this direction, and this direction, and this direction. It would go on forever. But if you drew it like that, it would just be coloring in the, or it'd be me coloring in the page, and you wouldn't be able to tell what I did. So the next one is 1 of A, B, or C equals 0, and D equals 0. Okay, so it's going to have the form, it's going to look like, it's going to be like AX plus BY equals 0. And it might be a Z, it could be AX CZ, or AX plus CZ, or it could be BY plus CZ. But it's going to be one of those things. Okay, so how we're going to do this is we're going to include the missing variable's axis. So the first thing, include missing variables axis. Okay. From there, you're then going to you're just going to connect origin. Connect the origin to a single point. This one's the hardest to explain, but it's actually not that difficult to draw. So to a single point where the missing variable equals 0. Okay, so what does that mean? That's kind of a yeah, poor explanation, but I can't think of a better one, so we'll just draw the example, and I think you'll see this one's not too bad. Okay, so we got X, Y, and z. So I'm going to draw the plane x plus y equals 0. Just to keep it simple, I just want to do a simple one. Okay. So actually, no, you know what? I'm going to do x, just to make it even easier. I'm going to do x minus y equals 0. Yeah, that's going to be even easier. Okay. So, first of all, we're including the z-axis, okay, because that's the missing variable. So we're going to include that entire axis. And so now what we do is when z equals 0, we let z equal 0, and we say, okay, well then let's just pick a point. So we can pick anything. So we can just pick, like, I don't know, 3, 3, right? If we pick 3, 3 on the x, y, and then z is 0, so that's going to be kind of over here, right? And so then we can just connect that point to the origin. And from there, we just turn it into a plane. Okay, again, it's not perfect, but you get the idea. And that's it. Okay? So, and it wouldn't make a difference if it was the z or the x or the y missing. It would just be, you would include that axis. And I think z probably is the easiest one to draw out of those three, but maybe not. Okay, so the next one is the same idea, but this time d doesn't equal 0. So we're going to say we're going to find the two intercepts. The two intercepts. Okay. And draw a parallel or what happened? Why isn't it working? There we go. And draw a plane parallel to the missing variable axis. Parallel to the missing variable axis. Okay. So, example here. So I'm going to give you, let's say this time I'm going to say x plus y equals 2. So I guess the equation would be x plus y minus 2 equals 0. You could rewrite that as x plus y equals 2, but it doesn't make a difference. Okay, it's the same thing. That's right. Okay, so to draw this, again, just like usual, we start with our axis, label all three variables. Okay. And so we're going to say, all right, so what would, if y equals 0, what would x equal? And it would be 2. So we'll put a thing at 2. Okay. If y equals 2, or sorry, if x equals 0, y would also equal 2. So there we go. So we've got a line connecting those two. And then what we do is we just run that parallel to the z-axis because it's missing. Okay. Well, whatever. This is what I'm talking about when I say I'm not too concerned about your art skills. So there you go. Okay, and that's it. Okay. So the next one we're going to do, this is what I believe is the hardest of all of the ones to do. Okay, so this is where A, B, and C, none of those equal 0. So we have a value for each of those, but D does equal 0. Okay, so what we're going to do on this one is we're going to include the origin. Okay, include the origin. Whoops, there's no E on origin. Okay, there we go. So include the origin. Okay, and what we want to do is we're going to just come up with two other points so that we can, kind of create a plane. And we're actually going to draw it as a triangle, which of course, it's not a triangle, but it's the easiest way to illustrate this. Okay, so we're going to find two other points. Okay. And then you're going to connect it with a plane. Okay. And as I say, this is the hardest one to illustrate, or at least I think anyway. And so don't worry too much, but do your best. So, there we go. X, Y, Z. And the one that I'm going to do, I'm going to illustrate, and I did pick one that's a little easier to see what I'm doing. So might not always look this clear, and that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to do negative x minus y plus z equals 0. So like I say, you're going to include the origin. Okay, so we include the origin, and then we're going to say, all right, well, what if x was 0 and y was 3, then z would be 3. Okay, so we'd have a point right there. Okay. And then I would say, all right, well, what if y is 0, x is 3, then z is 3? So that's going to be kind of right there. Okay, and from there, we're just going to connect these. We're going to show a triangular chunk of the plane. And there you go. And you can see that's the hardest to visualize what I've actually drawn. I mean, unfortunately, there's no better way to do it. Okay. And then finally, we've got what looks like the most difficult, okay, the most difficult to look at, or equation. It's actually not that bad to graph. This one's actually considerably easier than the last one. So this is when you have an A, a B, a C, and a D value, and none of them equals 0. So I'm just going to give you the example to start with so you know what I'm talking about. So the example I'm going to do is x plus y plus z minus 3 equals 0. Okay. That's the one I'm going to draw. And again, I did pick one that's a little easier to draw, but so that you'll see what I'm doing. But the process is the same. So you're just going to find the 3 intercepts. Find the 3 intercepts. And then we're going to connect them with a plane. Okay. So, there's my z, my y, my x. Okay, and so in this case, and obviously I picked easy numbers, but they're all going to cross at 3. Okay, all 3 intercepts are at 3. So I've got my 3 points, and I'm just going to connect them like that. And that one's a little easier than the last one to visualize what I've graphed there. But that's it. Okay? So, until next time, go Sabres.